Hi there, this is Phil Vischer, the creator of Veggie Tales and also great-grandson of conference founder R.R. Brown. Last night, we learned about the World Radio Congregation, my great-grandfather's radio show that broadcast from Omaha, Nebraska from 1923 to 1978. This wasn't local radio. Because the airwaves were so uncluttered in the 20s and 30s, the signal from Omaha could be picked up by ships at sea in both the Atlantic and the Pacific. Within a few years, the radio show had regular listeners in 12 states and grew to a weekly listening audience of more than 500,000 people. By the early 1930s, R.R. Brown and others were wondering if an annual conference would be a good way to get the radio audience together for more in-depth teaching and face-to-face time. And what better place to do it than around the Iowa Great Lakes? In 1935, the school district of Arnold's Park, Iowa, agreed to allow a 90-foot by 90-foot tent to be pitched on the school grounds right across the street from where we sit right now. Originally known as the Summer Conference of the Western District of the Christian and Missionary Alliance, catchy. Those first meetings attracted more than 1,000 people from 80 different cities to hear speakers like J.O. Buswell and R.G. Letourneau, as well as missionaries from Ecuador, Eastern Siam, India, Tibet, and Borneo. As he did on the weekly radio show, R.R. Brown's son, R.S. Brown, my grandfather, led the congregational singing, as you see him doing here with gusto. The conference was a hit, and city officials, local churches, and cottage owners asked Reverend Brown to bring the conference back every year. By 1940, growing attendance required a new 90-foot by 170-foot tent. Crowds gathered under the tent each summer as speakers spoke and singers sang. In 1945, looking for a permanent home, the conference bought the current grounds for a whopping $13,000, but would continue to meet in the tent until 1949, the year a young Billy Graham was a featured conference speaker. The building we're in today was put up in 1950 by William Stadwald and his son Werner, longtime members of the Omaha Gospel Tabernacle and conference attendees. Men needed for the construction project were rallied by weekly pleas on the radio show from Omaha. And it was in this building that R.R. Brown raised the roof in the name of the gospel until his death in 1964. At that time, his son, R.S. Brown, took over as director, a role he would fill for the next 30 years. When Bob and May Brown stepped aside in 1994, my grandfather had stood on the platform, leading, singing, and harassing ushers at every conference for 60 years. But we've just begun to dig into my grandmother's closet. Come back tomorrow night for more.